Good day, Professor. My name is Guo Hongqi, and today I am presenting my doctoral coursework report entitled Organizational Capability Reconfiguration under Sustained Digital Transformation, a qualitative process study from the dynamic capability perspective in Pearl River Delta manufacturing firms. This study focuses on how manufacturing firms in the Pearl River Delta respond to sustained digital transformation, pressure, and how this pressure may lead to deeper organizational capability reconfiguration. In this presentation, I will briefly introduce the research background, theoretical foundation, methodology, major findings, and the implications of the study. Manufacturing firms in the Pearl River Delta are facing continuous digital transformation pressure. This pressure comes from customer demand, market competition, and the increasing need for data visibility, process speed, and coordination efficiency. However, digital transformation does not always produce real organizational change. Many firms introduce digital systems, but their routines, structures, and decision processes remain largely unchanged. As a result, firms under similar pressure may show very different outcomes. Some gradually build new capabilities, while others achieve only superficial adjustment. This suggests that the key issue is not technology adoption alone, but how digital pressure is translated into organizational processes and capability development. Based on this problem, the purpose of the study is to explain how organizational capability reconfiguration unfolds under sustained digital transformation pressure. Rather than asking only whether digital transformation happens, this study asks how it happens over time and under what organizational conditions it can be maintained. The core research question is, under sustained digital transformation pressure, how and under what organizational conditions do manufacturing firms in the Pearl River Delta initiate and maintain the sensing, seizing, and reconfiguring cycle to achieve organizational capability reconfiguration? This question shifts the discussion from technical adoption to the internal organizational work that supports long-term transformation. This study has both theoretical and practical significance. Theoretically, it contributes to dynamic capability theory by examining how sensing, seizing, and reconfiguring operate in the context of sustained digital transformation. It highlights process and sequence rather than treating capability renewal as automatic. Practically, it helps managers understand why digital initiatives may stall even after systems have been introduced. In many cases, the real obstacle lies in organizational conditions rather than in technology itself. At the same time, this study has limitations. It is based on 3 manufacturing firms in the Pearl River Delta, so the findings are analytically meaningful but not broadly generalizable. The study is grounded in dynamic capability theory. The traditional resource-based view explains advantage through valuable resources, but it is less effective in highly dynamic environments. By contrast, dynamic capability theory focuses on the firm's ability to sense changes, seize opportunities, and reconfigure resources and routines. In this study, these 3 activities are not treated as fixed linear stages. They are understood as overlapping and iterative processes. Firms may revisit earlier judgments, adjust commitments, and reshape routines repeatedly as digital pressure continues. This perspective provides a more suitable lens for understanding capability reconfiguration in manufacturing firms undergoing sustained transformation. The study is grounded in dynamic capability theory. The traditional resource-based view explains advantage through valuable resources, but it is less effective in highly dynamic environments. By contrast, dynamic capability theory focuses on the firm's ability to sense changes, seize opportunities, and reconfigure resources and routines. In this study, these 3 activities are not treated as fixed linear stages. They are understood as overlapping and iterative processes. firms may revisit earlier judgments, adjust commitments, and reshape routines repeatedly as digital pressure continues. This perspective provides a more suitable lens for understanding capability reconfiguration in manufacturing firms undergoing sustained transformation. This study adopts a qualitative, multiple case design. 3 manufacturing firms in the Pearl River Delta were selected because they were all experiencing digital transformation pressure but displayed different response patterns. The main data source is interviews with middle and senior managers. These respondents are closely involved in digital initiatives and organizational adjustment, so they can provide detailed process-based insights. The goal of this design is not statistical generalization. Instead, it is to develop an analytical explanation of how capability reconfiguration unfolds across different organizational contexts. For data analysis, the study combines inductive coding with event sequence analysis. First, interview materials are transcribed and coded to identify recurring themes and process elements. Second, the study constructs timelines in order to understand not only what happened, but also when and in what sequence key events occurred. Third, critical events are identified, such as strategic decisions, experimental initiatives, and structural adjustments. Finally, cross-case comparison is used to integrate the findings into a broader process model. To improve credibility, the study also uses member checking and peer review. The case analysis produces a 3-stage process model. The first stage is pressure sensing and initial response. Firms begin to recognize digital pressure, but responses are often exploratory and fragmented. The second stage is experimental exploration and resource commitment. At this stage, firms move toward more deliberate action through pilot projects, experiments, and stronger commitment of resources. The third stage is routinization and structural embedding. Here, successful practices are stabilized and incorporated into routines, structures, and managerial systems. This model suggests that capability reconfiguration is gradual. It develops through repeated organizational action rather than through one-time technological adoption. Cross-case comparison identifies 3 key factors shaping capability reconfiguration. The first is attention structure. Transformation is more likely to advance when top management gives sustained priority to digital change. The second is resource allocation. Even strong strategic language is insufficient if resources remain tied to old priorities. The third is authority distribution. New initiatives require enough decision-making authority to support experimentation and adjustment. These factors help explain why firms under similar external pressure can still follow very different transformation paths. In conclusion, this study argues that sustained digital pressure can drive organizational capability reconfiguration, but only when the sensing, seizing, and reconfiguring cycle is effectively activated and maintained. The outcome depends not only on technology, but also on internal organizational conditions, such as managerial attention, resource commitment, and authority arrangement. The study contributes to theory by extending dynamic capability thinking into the digital transformation context, and by proposing a process model grounded in qualitative evidence. For practice, it suggests that managers should focus not only on deploying systems, but also on building the organizational conditions that allow new capabilities to emerge. Future research can expand the sample, adopt longitudinal designs, and test whether the model applies in other industries and regions. This concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and I welcome your comments and suggestions.